engineers.
Okay, we've got everyone coming in. 1 second.
Hi.
Hello.
Hi, Ashima ji. How are you, Ashima?
All well.
Good afternoon.
Hello, Anita. How are you?
Hi, Doc. How are you?
I'm very well indeed, thank you.
I can't see you.
This is a great advantage.
Hi. Acha, how are you?
Yes, you can.
Anita auntie, Bharat uncle, we can't see you. You need to start the video.
You can't see me?
No, we can see you. We can't see the others. We can see you and Mary both.
Right, okay.
Okay. Just
So we're
30
waiting
more
for
seconds.
There's Bharat.
Bharat, yes.
Hello.
I can see Doc. Hi, Doc.
Hi, Ashima.
Hi, good to see you. Good to see you.
Hi,
And
Jeffrey.
there is the great banker.
Hi, Jeffrey.
How are you, sir?
Hi, sir. Good afternoon.
Hi, Ashima. How are you?
Good, good.
It's very wonderful to have the three of you.
Congratulations, Mary and Jeffrey, on the birth of your grandchild.
Thank you very much indeed. They know everything in India.
No,
Oh,
we
wow.
are in.
Congratulations.
We are in London.
The card's still there. Oh, no, it isn't.
Oh, I put it in. Okay,
Oh.
get it on.
Jeffrey, Bharat Bhai and Dr. Anita, they are in London and they just became grandparents as well.
Ah.
We got a grandson on the 22nd of March.
Congratulations.
Thank
Bravo.
you. Thank you.
Bravo. I'm sure they'll end up as the British Prime Minister.
The way things are going.
Amitabh, I don't know if you know, Jeffrey was the youngest MP or one of the youngest MPs at the age of 29 in Britain.
And he hasn't aged a day.
100 years ago.
100 years ago.
Still,
I can't see Mary.
what a wonderful project Ahmed is doing. What a wonderful
Yes, Amitabh
thing
is
to
doing
want
a
to do in
wonderful.
these terrible times.
Yes.
Terrible.
He's feeding the policemen, he's feeding the health workers, he's providing them with safety equipment.
I know he's doing lots of stuff.
And medicines too.
So
Because
first
we
of
are
all,
so
let me.
privileged. We are so privileged, and every time I come to India, I think it's rubbed in even more how fortunate and lucky I've been, and how much talent there must be in India, and we must make sure they have every chance of using that talent and going to the next stage.
Indeed, indeed, indeed. So I thank you, Jeffrey. Thank you, Dr. Anita, Bharat Bhai, Ashima ji. So I wanted to kick off. This is the first series. We are calling it Unstoppable Generosity, where we have the most wonderful, wonderful philanthropists who care truly and deeply about the poorest of poor children, the neediest of needy children, and making sure that they blossom, they groom. And Lord Archer, it is a privilege and an honor that you were so positive and you said right away that, you know, I would love to be a part of this and inspire everyone. So thank you primarily. And we have a small surprise for you. This is going to be informal. The next 30 minutes are going to be a lot of fun. They're going to be meaningful, and you guys are going to feel like you're in a party. So we had a little surprise to kick this.
My wife is coming to join me.
Just to see.
So Ashima, do we have Yash with us around?
Yeah, we do. And we have Myra also, I think, on the other side. One sec. Here, come here.
So we have two little kids, Jeffrey, who are 10 years old.
9.
Sorry, they're 9 years old. And they are doing something amazing to feed people, because nutrition is a big problem. And these two 9-year-old children have come up with something wonderful. So here is Yash and Myra.
Yash.
Hi,
Yash
Yash.
and Myra,
Hi,
can you
Yash.
put
Nice
on
to
your
see you.
camera?
Hello.
Ah, there's Myra. stand up. You can stand up. They won't be able to.
Where's Myra? I can't see Myra. Hi, Myra.
Hello.
Hi.
Hi, Myra.
So, Yash, do you want to start and share what your project is about?
What did you do?
Yeah, I want to start second.
No, what did you do? What did you do? What did you do? Tell them.
We raise money for the Roti Foundation so they can give food to like unfortunate families
Oh, and who else?
and migrant workers.
And migrant workers. Wow. Myra,
Wow.
you want to say something?
Wonderful.
Well done. Well done.
Myra, why did you do this?
Because we remembered that in school that our school supports the Roti Bank Foundation. So we thought that if many people could donate for it, then during this time, many families would not have to starve.
Well done.
Excellent, Myra. Excellent. Myra and Yash collected
Mary's
1
going
point.
to say something. Of course,
Sorry.
she's been a teacher all her life, so she'd like to say something.
Oh, wow.
Welcome, Mary.
Hello there. Just wanted to say how nice it is to hear from you two children, Myra, and your name?
Yes.
Yes.
Yash.
Yeah. Yash. Well done. Well done. I love your ears, Myra, incidentally. Is that part of the project?
I think there.
Anyway, it's so good to see you thinking about children who are less fortunate than you are, and helping the situation in India. We have similar issues in the UK, perhaps not to the same extent, but people like you really make a difference. So congratulations.
Quite right.
What are you supposed to say?
Thank
And
you.
children, just so you know, my wife Mary was a teacher at Oxford University
Oh, wow.
and
Wow.
is now a Dame. She is Dame Mary. So she cares passionately about education. Passionately.
Wow. That's great. Thanks
I
so
would
much,
like-
Mary.
Not at all.
So, Mary, they raised almost 15,000 pounds to feed hundreds of people so that they could get the nutrition and stay healthy in these difficult times.
That's absolutely terrific. That's a lot of money. How did you raise it?
How did you raise it? So you made a what? What did you do? You made a video appeal?
Yeah, we made a video to post, and then there was a link below it, so then people could click on it and then they could donate.
And who did you send it to?
We sent it to all of our friends.
Well, that was a very efficient way to do it. Giving online is good because people see and they think, yes, I'll do that. And it's really easy to click on that box and give something. So that works well. How did you raise money, Myra?
Myra?
Once we made the video, our parents shared it to their friends and everyone was passing it on. So then that's how we kept getting money for the foundation.
Right. Do you think we could see the video somehow? Perhaps somebody could send us the link if it's on YouTube or something.
Miss, it's on YouTube.
It's on YouTube. Oh, it's on you. You put it on YouTube. Oh,
There you are.
I'll send it. I'll send it to Amitabh. I think Amitabh, you've been one of the contributors to their cause also.
Yes.
So you have the video.
Yes,
Please
I
send
do.
it.
I will send it to you, Jeffrey.
Thank you.
But I think these kids deserve a huge round of applause for just trying.
Yes.
Thank you.
So now I would like to ask all of you some questions, and I would like
Sure.
Jeffrey and Mary to reply first, and then move it to our other guests. So the first question is that, a simple thank you goes a long way. Is there a way that we can teach gratitude to children through our education system? Because there is so much complaining and negativity and criticism everywhere. How do we teach children to be thankful? So I would love your thoughts on that, Mary and Jeffrey?
Well, I think I learnt my interest in charity and giving from my mother. So I suspect it's a family thing. I suspect if you come from a family who believe in giving, who believe in paying back to society, that's a help. And one must sympathize with children who don't have that privilege, because Maya and Nesh, they are very privileged, very privileged. And so, like the virus, they can spread that to other children. They can spread a feeling of wanting to help others.
Beautiful. Mary?
That's nice.
Well, I would agree with that. But in terms of teaching children to say thank you, I think that parents can also say thank you. Thank you for putting your toys away. Thank you for, helping me with the washing up. So, good habits are infectious, just as bad habits are infectious. So I think the influence of the home is very important, and the influence of the school, to a lesser extent, a significant extent also. And I think you're right, Amitabh, that the habit of saying thank you has vanished in favor of a rather aggressive sense of entitlement, and we need to gently push back on that.
Quite right.
That's beautifully said. Absolutely. Saying thank you can be infectious. And I think all the parents listening need to do that. And Yash and Myra are doing this because of their parents. Absolutely. Bharat Bhai, any thoughts on gratitude?
I think I couldn't agree more with both Jeffrey and Mary. They have put it very well. I think we have all forgotten to say thank you, a simple thank you. We have forgotten in our daily lives to say thank you. I think what Myra and Yash have done is opened our eyes. They have done a phenomenal job of collecting 15,000 pounds, which is huge, for the Roti Bank, which was started by a retired police officer, for feeding. And this, they really have done a tremendous job. We also need to teach by our own example our children and people that we come in contact with, that we are grateful and thankful for the little things that they do for us, because we all come from privileged families. So it is important, it is up to us to say thank you and teach and lead by example.
Lead by example, absolutely. Dr. Anita?
Yeah.
Your thoughts?
I think as you grow up, it should become a second nature to say thank you for the least little thing. Even if someone just gives you a pencil or a rubber or just one piece of anything, it should just come automatically, thank you. And that can only come, as everyone has agreed, that it starts at home and then it continues in the school. And I think the teachers have to be educated to teach the children, inculcate the habit of saying thank you for the least little thing. One should never take anything for granted.
Especially your wife. Isn't that right, Jeffrey?
Especially your spouses. Especially your spouses. Amitabh, you're speaking so much because Rashmi is not there with you.
Yes. I'm a bachelor. She's in a different city under lockdown. Ashima?
Is it?
Well,
Ashima?
Yeah.
Thoughts of gratitude?
Yeah, I think thank you is just it's a simple way, and like the both of them have done. The amazing thing is some of their friends had a birthday, and instead of a birthday party, the friends chose to put in money in the Roti Foundation. And the kids recorded a video and thanked every one of the friends, because for a 9-year-old or a 8-year-old to give money out of their birthday is, I think, outstanding. So, and that thank you went a really long way. So I think, and we also realized that it's now become a chain. There are a lot of other kids who've said that if we can also raise money for a cause. So I think it also creates a lot of goodwill and a good, and good things kind of multiply.
Absolutely. As Mary said, it's contagious. Jeffrey, you wanted to say something.
I wanted to say something to Mr. Shah. I wanted to ask him a question. He employs 100,000 people. I wondered how many are at work today and how many are in lockdown, and what are the problems he's facing as one of India's leading bankers?
Jeffrey.
Great question.
Jeffrey, it's a good question. I am in London. I am retired. I will ask Ashima to answer because she's still actively working at the bank, and she will be able to answer you much better than I would. Ashima, please answer.
Of course. I think banking comes under essential services. So the bank hasn't been shut, lockdown or no lockdown, which means our frontline teams are at work. The branches are at work every day after day. And the back offices also, about 30% of the people in rotation are at work every single day. That's quite commendable because despite the fear and the scare, they are at work every day. So for us, it's been business as usual.
It's a great service to the nation.
It may not be business as usual, perhaps when some of your clients return from lockdown or don't return from lockdown or lose their jobs or their firms, enter stormy waters. I think, in this country, we're pretty fearful of what is going to happen to our commercial and business infrastructure as we emerge from lockdown into an economic recession, the like of which we've never seen.
And unemployment, the like of which we've never seen.
I think to add to what Mary has said, I think our small and medium enterprises will face the same issues much more, in a much more bigger fashion than in England, where you have an excellent support system from the government. Our small businesses will suffer a lot, and I don't know how many of them will close down and how many of them will reopen. The bank has, as Ashima will correct me, given a moratorium for 6 months. But after the lockdown is over, we have to wait and see how many of them will be able to get back on their feet. How many people will have lost their jobs? I see the country in recession for the first time in 40 years. We will have no growth in India. It's going to be a huge challenge for most industries, whether it is travel, whether it is hotels, whether it is restaurants, and I can go on and on. But it's going to be a huge, huge challenge for India.
Jeffrey and Mary, I had another question for you guys, since we're speaking about India, is if both of you had a magic wand, what is one thing that you would change about India? Apart from Jeffrey's books being sold on the streets for half the prices. Apart from that.
I'm not sure you would change that, would you?
No, I wouldn't. I want to be read, and I don't mind if they're given away. So know that. I love India so much, and the people so much. When you ask for something that's almost negative, what change? It's difficult, because I think always with questions like that, you must emphasize the positives. And you are at the moment, I think you're probably the most entrepreneurial nation on earth, even more than the Chinese. And when I joked at the beginning about having an Indian prime minister in Britain, I wasn't. We have 2 Indians in the cabinet. And when I look at the back benches, I can see several coming through. What would I change? If I could wave, to use your words, wave a magic wand, every child would have an equal education. And to hell with what your background is, to hell with who your parents are. You start at the same age with the same opportunities and chances as any other child.
Beautiful.
Wow.
Beautiful. Mary?
Well, I too wouldn't change much about India. I first came, must be 30 years ago at least, when I was still working as a full-time scientist, to a conference at the Homi Bhabha Institute in Mumbai, and completely fell in love with the place. I think I might suggest tentatively that drivers stick to their side of the road.
All right. Yeah, that would be a miracle.
We're gonna make Jeffrey the traffic minister of India next time.
Oh, that would solve it. That would solve it. Yeah.
Tougher than being prime minister of any country. Yes, I've always said, forgive me for being light for a moment, I've always said, who teaches the Indians that the white line in the middle of the road is meant to go down the middle of the car?
Remember the drive to Parel from the Oberoi. Almost jumped out of the car.
Amazing. Dr. Anita, I have a question for you. Because, you know, there are so many haves and have-nots, especially amongst children. And I feel that there is a lot of wastefulness that happens amongst the privileged children, be it wasting of food, books, all kinds of other things. How do we reduce this wastefulness? Because there's millions of children starving because their parents are jobless and they're in the slums and not going to schools. So how do you work with this wastefulness issue?
Actually, this whole COVID pandemic has taught us several lessons. And one of the most important lessons it's taught us is not to be wasteful and not to take nature for granted. If that can be explained to children right from the time they can start thinking, right from kindergarten or the first standard, up till the time they graduate, and it becomes a habit with them not to waste. For example, when they're served food, they can say, no, I can take a second helping, not just heap their plates and throw food away, just because the parents could afford it. And they learn to appreciate nature. It's not only food, but even papers or pencils or pens or clothes or anything. There's so many people who don't have any, are deprived of all these things. If they can be taught all this again from home and in schools, it would be very, very important, especially to avoid another pandemic like this and so many other problems that we have while we insult Mother Nature.
Absolutely beautiful. I think that parents can play a big role in that. Mary or Jeffrey?
Sorry. Anita, partly sort of the waste not, want not mentality is something you do learn in your youth, or you don't naturally. So I'm the immediate post-war generation. The wasting of any food was just not. I think that one of the things that, you know, we're not in a, well, we may be entering a new age of austerity, of course, in which these things will become universally important just for sort of survival. But, and I think something that does speak very strongly to young people is saving the planet. So it's well known that we are using resources at a rate that would require...
Sorry, Mary, can you speak up a little? We can't hear you as we can.
Okay, I'm rather far from the microphone. Is that better?
Yes, better.
Okay. I was just saying that I think one of the things that does resonate with children and young people very strongly is sustainability and saving the planet. We are using resources, mineral resources, oil, energy, water, you name it, at a rate that is unsustainable and would require 3 Earths to service our population. And so a circular economy in which things are not wasted, in which our carbon footprint is radically reduced, in which plastic doesn't pile up and kill fish in the sea, but is biodegradable or is reusable, we recognize that our resources are finite, and that we are trashing our own environment if we don't live our life according to that philosophy.
And the good thing about this, it is actually been the young who have led us on this. We oldies have been a bit pathetic and out of touch and out of date and wasteful of particularly things like oil and other things we take for granted. And I'm bound to say the young have woken us up, and that is a very good thing.
Well, thank you for giving some credit to the young people. I would like to move on to something slightly lighter with Mr. Shah. Mr. Shah, what is your favorite Jeffrey Archer book and why?
My favorite to this day remains Not a Penny More, Not a Penny Less. And the circumstances under which Jeffrey wrote this book, I remember it so vividly. He had gone belly up because he invested in a Canadian company. And he wrote this book, which earned him my eternal gratitude, because I've been stuck and hung on to every book that he has written. I don't think I have missed any book of his. And I wait eagerly for every new book that comes my way. I still remember the story also. It's very, very vivid.
That's very kind.
And the man is amazing. I wish I had half his energy at my age that he has today, and the passion that he has for living. And I can see that Mary is the force behind it all, now that I've seen Mary for the first time. And I remember him praising Mary to the sky. I remember him praising Mary to the sky.
Sorry,
I said I remember him addressing the young children at that school in Parel, and he said the inspiration behind all this is Mary. So I have been eagerly awaiting to meet Mary.
I think I'm more of a restraint than a driving force.
So, Mary, so say all of us about our spouses.
Jeffrey, who helped you set up this Zoom call?
Mary. And when it finishes, she'll turn it off and I'll walk away. I know my place.
Ashima, what's your favorite book and why? Jeffrey Archer book.
Without question, and with all respect to the other books, Not a Penny More, Not a Penny Less. I must have read it, I think 5 times, 6 times at least. So it's one of my favorites. And of course, Cain and Abel. I have all your books. So,
that's very kind.
And I did tell you at the Parel school that you're by far my most favorite author. So I think I'm looking forward to the next one coming up soon. So
thank you very much. That'll be in October.
Oh,
Can't wait. And none of us can wait.
Jeffrey, why do Indians love you so much?
Well, it's partly because they realize what a very great cricketer I was. Certainly Mr. Tendulkar and Mr. V.V.S. Laxman, Mr. Rahul Dravid, to name but 3, and more recently Mr. Kohli, have been seeking my advice on these matters, and I've been very happy to pass on my knowledge and hope that indeed Mr. Kohli will go on to do greater things now that we've met. So of course, I had the great privilege when I was up at Oxford, when Mary and I were up at Oxford, the Nawab Patodi was captain of the Indian cricket team. And we loved him dearly. And my admiration for him grew so much when he lost that eye in a tragic car accident, but still went on to captain his country. What a remarkable man. And I've since met his granddaughter, or was it his daughter, who was at Balliol College, Oxford, who herself has been raising money for charitable causes. And I did an auction for her in a London hotel with her formidable mother, who frightened the life out of me. But the two of them together, wow, they were very special indeed. And she is modern India, as indeed, Amit, you are modern India. And I think everyone will wake up in time to realizing that the future for India, despite this terrible period we're going through, is truly amazing, truly amazing. And it's because you work so hard. There are other races who are immigrants. There are other races who arrive on our shores, but none work as hard as the Indians. And when a young Indian a few years ago became chairman of the city livery companies, first one ever to do that, he was asked about his success, and he said, well, I personally and my family run a plumbing business. What we do is plumbers. And on the side of my van, it says, Platel and Platel, you've tried the cowboys. Why don't you try the Indians?
Feathers, not dots.
Well, I think that sums up my view, and I'm delighted we now have clearly a very brilliant young Chancellor of the Exchequer who comes from a great Indian family.
Dr. Anita, now over to you. What's your favorite Jeffrey Archer book and your favorite Jeffrey Archer character?
It's very difficult. This is a very, very difficult question. I'll have to sleep over it and think over it. But I enjoyed Heads You Win. And every book has kept me entranced. I've not been able to put down any book. Once I start reading it, I neglect all my other work, all my duties at home. It's impossible to select a single person I have admired, but I thoroughly look forward to the new book coming.
Very kind. Thank you very much indeed.
Awesome. So I would like to, have the last 5 to 10 minutes with just Jeffrey and Mary. So I sent out a request to all the children in the schools, all the young people who read your books, and they came up with 6 questions that they wanted us to ask both of you. And the first question is to Mary. Mary, what is one thing that annoys you the most about Jeffrey and one thing that you love the most about Jeffrey?
One.
Just one.
Just one.
Let's see.
It's lucky we've only got 10 minutes.
Well, let's start with the positives. So I really admire his work ethic and his focus. So I have a life where I get pulled in a lot of directions because I do a lot of things. And he is very focused now on his writing. And I really admire the fact that he has a punishing schedule and he sticks to it. And, that's not easy because nobody makes him do it. There's no employer with a clock there, with a watch there saying, you've got to clock in and clock out. But he does clock in and clock out with extraordinary regularity. Now let me see, what most annoys me about him? Gosh. Can I have notice of that question while he answers, and then I will come back?
Come back.
Yes.
Same for you, Jeffrey.
Well, we've been married 54 years.
Wow.
And I think I've been very privileged and very lucky to have such a clever, good, kind person at my side.
Yes.
I'm painfully aware that I don't have her ability to concentrate on detail in the way she does. But she quite rightly says that her brain is being taken in every direction. This morning, she had to deal with a member of Parliament in Yorkshire over a project she's doing for the Science Museum. A couple of days ago, she had to deal with the Secretary of State about when she will open the Science Museum. A few days before that, she was talking to a distinguished Nobel Prize winner about COVID and its problems. And so to live with someone like that, I don't have to read the papers. I say, what does that mean? I don't understand it. And Mary kindly explains it to me like some school child who's got his book open and is hoping to get an answer. Failings, am I allowed to talk about the failings?
Sure.
It's taken her 54 years to learn how to cook. We've been in this lockdown for 80 days, and I can tell you, she's a damn good cook. But my son, James, age 47, said, "Please, can I have my youth back?" Which will give you a clue how dreadful she was. Because she's mastered, by the way, children, listen carefully. She's mastered Knickerbocker Glory. Wow. That's worth having if you're ever in Cambridge.
Okay. Second question. And Mary, do you want to reply to the first one? You want some more time?
No, just to say, I think the most irritating thing is that he can never find things. So sometimes I think he doesn't want to. So like, for example, where are the drying up cloths kept? Where is his hearing aid? Where are his specs? Where is his iPhone? What have I done with all the above? And the answer is generally nothing.
Yeah, quite right. Guilty.
So Mary, last time Jeffrey was in India, he told all of us that it was love at first sight for you. You couldn't keep your hands off of him as soon as you saw him. You chased him around. Is that true?
It's exactly the other way around. You weren't listening, you frog. You second interpreter. What I said, it was exactly the other way around. I wanted to kill anyone.
I was in trouble.
It took her some considerable time to realize I was any value at all.
Okay, on a serious note, the second question is, what is your favorite movie and why, for both of you? One of your favorite movies.
I think that the story of Thomas More,
A Man for All Seasons.
A Man for
I
All
was going to
Seasons,
say exactly that.
is a work of genius.
Yes.
Not only because it's directed by one of the all-time great directors, and not only because Paul Scofield is among the greatest actors I have ever seen, but there were a bunch of young actors in that film. Ian McKellen, John Hurt. You could go through the list, totally unknown. But the genius of the director was he'd chosen these young unknowns, well aware how talented they were. So that's my favorite film. If I had to look at a film twice, 3 times, 4 times, because you can study different aspects of it. But at a totally trivial level, I love The Sting. I loved Robert Redford and Paul Newman in The Sting. Damn good story, got the script, of course, got an Oscar, they got Oscars. It was just fun. So they're very different, those two. But if I look back on my life, I think probably Lean is the greatest director I never met the great man. Lean is the greatest director that we in Britain have ever experienced. But we are very privileged. You see, we don't know your Bollywood actors and actresses. We are very privileged because we have Maggie Smith, we have Judi Dench, we can just go on. And in my youth, we had Laurence Olivier, Ralph Richardson, we had Alec Guinness.
Yes.
And now we've gone on. I mean, we've been Mary and I have seen, not on film, we've seen on stage at Stratford and at the National Theatre, probably every one of our great actors and actresses.
Amazing.
So you do have your own great tradition. I would second what Jeffrey says. David Lean, of course, was a master director. Lawrence of Arabia was another incredible film.
Another Alec Guinness.
My mom loves it.
It's great movie. Great movie. The young Peter O'Toole was just perfect as well.
My favorite Indian film is the cricket match one.
Dhoni?
Lagan.
Again. I think that's wonderful. I thought the dancing was a waste of time. I would have liked to get on with the story. We in Britain rather like the story. We don't think the cricket should be interrupted by a long dance by a beautiful woman. We think we should get on with the story. But I loved the idea of the Indian caste system being used in a cricket match. So the untouchable actually gets the winning wicket and puts us all rightly in our place. But the other piece of genius about that film, which I have to explain to Indians because they miss it. They're so slow, Indians. They miss the truly significant thing in that film. Both umpires were English. And oh yes, you won the match, but the English umpires behaved correctly.
Oh.
And that was the yes, I love that film. Loved it. Take out the dancing and I'll watch it again.
Awesome.
I think, Amitabh, I have to interrupt you for a minute.
Yes.
Jeffrey, Ashima, I don't know if you know, but another aspiring actress with great talent is Amitabh's wife, Rashmi. She's already made a movie,
oh my God,
which I have not yet seen. It is soon to be released. It's in Gujarat.
Oh.
I was the only one who saw it, and I had to see it by force. She plays a corrupt police officer. It played in the theaters here, and I thought she did a fantastic job. This is being recorded, so I have to say nice things. But she did an amazing job. And Mary, do you guys have Netflix set up in Cambridge?
Yes, we do.
So there is a wonderful movie called My Dear Prime Minister. I will message Jeffrey the name of it. It's got English subtitles. It's a movie made by one of the topmost directors. He's like the Steven Spielberg of India. He made it inspired by our charity, Yuva Unstoppable, and it is about a little boy who is Yash's age, and he wants to make a toilet, a lavatory for his mother. And he writes a letter to the Prime Minister. And how the whole thing happens is a cute 1.5-hour movie, and also tells you what's really going on.
Oh, do send us the link. We'd enjoy watching that.
That's a very clever idea for a story.
Thank you. And that means a lot because you are probably the world's best storyteller. One last question this is now for all of you. You know, we have to talk about cricket because Mary, I met Jeffrey at the Lord's Cricket Ground, which was at Sir Ian Botham's.
I was amazed you were let in. Actually. I was amazed they let you in, but there you were, chatting to some of the greatest cricketers on earth. I thought, who's he?
I mean,
okay, never mind the rudeness. What's the question?
So it was not for my good looks, Jeffrey. Definitely not. But I will ask you guys, so who is your favorite cricketer? And not Sir Ian Botham, but anyone else. Who's your favorite cricketer and why? For all of
me.
Mary first.
Yes.
Okay. My favorite cricketer is dead. It was Peter May, who was captain of the Surrey cricket team and England in the great days when Surrey, which is my home county, was top of the league for about 11 years in a row.
And had 7 England people in the team.
And my dear father, who passed away in 1971, was a very enthusiastic
and knowledgeable
cricketer, a good cricketer in his youth, actually, good batsman. So we had this 1950s television, kind of about 2-inch square black and white screen, and he would be glued to it whenever Surrey was playing away, and he'd be at the Oval when they were playing at home. So Peter May for me.
Awesome. Great man.
Well, I've loved the game all my life, as you know. I think Garfield Sobers is probably the most exciting cricketer I've ever seen. Calvert wouldn't be Father Time, but Garfield Sobers is a genius, an absolute genius. He can go fast, he can go slow, he can go left-handed, he can go right-handed, he can go 300 runs in a test match. though this will shock you all unless you follow the game of cricket very closely. I'm a huge admirer of Jack Callis. I think he is underrated. If you look at his record as the 5th most successful batsman in history and the 11th most successful bowler in history, you have to say, what a remarkable talent. But I think we're probably living in another age now. I suspect that Kohli is going to break every known record. And that question in 10 years' time, when I think he will have overtaken the great Sachin Tendulkar, and he's the number 1 in the world now. It's between him and Smith and Williamson of New Zealand. Those are the 3 giants at the moment. But I have a feeling that Kohli will beat them all.
Well, more power to you. And Mr. Shah, I know that you got married to Dr. Anita and cricket had something to do with it. Do you want to tell us about the first conversation you had with her father?
My father-in-law was a doctor, and I went to ask Anita's hand, and we were sitting in his garden, and he asked me, do I like cricket? And he started talking about cricket, and I couldn't get a word in edgeways for 45 minutes. And then suddenly Anita's mother said, can I go and get a cake? So at that moment in time, I popped the question and I said, I've come here to ask your daughter's hand. He says, I know, you can have her. You can take her immediately. That was his response. You can ask Anita the story, she's listening.
Okay, fantastic.
And I would like to add 2 things I want to say, Amitabh. If I had a magic wand, I would say roti, kapda or makan.
Yes.
And that you can translate for Mary and Jeffrey. And for me, my all-time favorite cricketers are almost identical as Jeffrey's. I think Kohli and Smith and Kane Williamson are the 3 cricketers of today. Absolutely. And my all-time favorite is a toss-up between Sachin and Dhoni.
Sachin's such a nice person, as well as being, in his time, the greatest cricketer.
And the most exciting cricketer, Jeffrey, for me was Garfield Sobers and Viv Richards.
Yes, he's the sort of Federer of cricket. He has a sort of gentle... But I was going to end on a story here.
Yes, please.
I was playing, as I normally do with some of the world's great players. I was on the pitch batting with Gavaskar in a very important match against the rest of the world. And Sunil was the other end, and I was not out, a score I'm regularly known for. Sometimes out is more common. And he was playing as usual, the most beautiful strokes. I mean, one of the greatest stroke players the game has ever seen. And I hit a ball the next over past Sir Clive Lloyd. And Clive let it go by to the boundary, which was extremely kind of him, because he's got the longest arms of any human being I've ever seen, and the biggest of any human being I've ever seen. So he easily could have leant over and picked it up and stopped me. But no, he let it go to the boundary. And I thought, he's getting old, poor old thing. And then the next ball, Gavaskar hit the ball to mid-wicket as hard as he possibly could, and Lloyd dived full length and caught it with one hand. So I was mystified by this. Now, the children listen to this because you don't know these names, but these were 2 of the greatest cricketers of their day, both captain of their country. He dived full length and caught the ball, having let my ball just go by. So when Gavaskar left the pitch, I walked up to Sir Clive and I said, "What the hell was that about, Clive?" He said, "I dropped him in Trinidad and I wasn't going to drop him today." Rivalry was still there 30 years later. So I go into the pavilion and Gavaskar is taking off his pads. "Sunil," I said, "what was that about?" "He dropped me in Trinidad and he hasn't forgotten." The rivalry doesn't stop because you get older. There they were, these 2 giants, still wanting to kill each other. And when this pathetic worm Archer hit the ball, no interest at all. Let it go to the pantry.
That's a great story. And Jeffrey, we end with a final comment from you. If you had to tell us at Yuva Unstoppable one thing that we should focus on during this COVID time, what do you feel is the most important thing we should work for children at this time?
Well, Mary would have a better view on that because she's taught all her life and feels passionately about young children. We have 4 grandchildren and she reads to them every night. So I am in no doubt that that generation in India is going to play a major role in the world. But she would be more practical about what you have to do at the moment for the young.
Sure. As in, what I meant was Bharat Shah said that you should focus on food, you should focus on clothes, and then shelter as the hierarchy. House.
Yes, I think they're all important.
I think those are the absolute basic necessities. And, you know, if people children don't have those basic necessities, you can't move on to education, you know, in a higher plane. But when you are able to do that, children need to be, well, they are digitally astute. It's a digital world now. And of course, they're digital natives, lucky things. I think they need to learn tolerance. You know, there are many religions in the world, many opinions, and tolerance, which is meant to be a British virtue, though sometimes I wonder, tolerance of other people's views is important. That goes with not being aggressive in one's own views, because aggression leads all too easily to violence, I think. So in terms of, you know, the things that children should learn, I don't depart from the 3 R's. We're all getting in this country completely lazy about languages, as English has become so much the lingua franca. But it's, I think, really helpful to learn another language. So I think, you know, education is such a privilege, and sometimes children don't enjoy school, but if, you know, if they only realize, and their parents only realize, what a lifelong tyranny a lack of education is, they would take a different view.
I think that's a brilliant answer, especially about tolerance. Well, Jeffrey, Mary, we love you. We are extremely grateful. Jeffrey, you've just been such an incredibly inspiring cheerleader for the work we are doing at Yuva Unstoppable. Thank you for your love on a personal level, your encouragement, your motivation. And thank you for inspiring all of us today with some amazing, amazing answers. I am unmuting everyone, and we can all thank you. Thank you so much. Dr. Anita, thank you. Ashima, thank you. Yash, thank you. Myra, thank you, all of you. Thank you so much.
Thank you for hosting us. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Amitabh.
All the work you do,
Yes.
all the tireless good work you do to help children in your own country. You're a tiresome man who continually pushes for the next thing, but God bless you for that.
Thank you, Amitabh. God bless you, Amitabh.
Thank you, Bharat.
And
All the best.
please keep up the good work. We are all behind you. We are all with you.
We are.
Bye, Yash.
Bye, Yash. Bye, Ashima.
See you
Bye,
soon.
Bye,
Bye,
Jeffrey. Bye, Mary.
Jeffrey.
Bye, bye.